The DNA sequencing came back with an error code the lab had never seen before. The geneticist stared at his screen in silence. Then he ran the test again. Same result. A third time. Same impossibility. He finally looked up at the woman sitting across from him. "We can't explain this," he said, and his hands were shaking. She was 34 years old, perfectly healthy, no known conditions, but her bone density measured almost 3 times higher than normal human range. Her red blood cells carried a protein structure that didn't exist in any known population database, and her genetic markers showed sequences that shouldn't be there. "I don't know what this suggests," the doctor admitted, "because it doesn't match anything we know." She remembered her grandmother's voice immediately. "Never look into the family history. Never trace the names. Never ask why we're tall. Never look back." She promised she wouldn't, but she did, and what she found didn't fit into modern medicine. Her name was Anna. She stood 6 feet 5 inches tall. Her younger brother was almost 7 feet. Their father had been 6'9", and their grandfather's death certificate listed his height as 7 feet 4 inches. Doctors told her the genetics didn't make sense. Height is supposed to regress toward the mean. Tall parents produce slightly less tall children. But in her family, it didn't regress, it accelerated. Anna hit puberty normally. Then, in a single year, she grew 14 inches. No tumors, no hormonal disorder, no gigantism. Her bones were normal in shape, just denser, much denser. Her endocrinologist brought in specialists. They argued in the hallway. One of them whispered something she wasn't supposed to hear. "It's like she comes from a different baseline population." That word haunted her. Baseline. Because if the average height never regressed, maybe the average was wrong. Maybe somewhere in her family history, the human average wasn't 5'7". Maybe it was something else entirely. Anna followed records backwards. Church registries, marriage documents, handwritten census lists. They led her to villages in Eastern Europe that no longer existed, places erased from maps, entire towns removed from records after the mid-1800s. That search led her to a rural archive in southern Poland, 2 hours from Krakow, where paved roads turned to gravel and forests grew thick and quiet. The building was an old farmhouse, books stacked floor to ceiling, genealogical records in 17 languages, and a woman named Maria Kowalska, 67 years old, former university archivist, forced into early retirement in 1998. They said it was budget cuts. She said it wasn't. People come here when their medical tests don't make sense, when doctors tell them the samples must be contaminated, when genealogy websites can't trace their names past 1850. She showed Anna a map, red pins, hundreds of them, concentrated in regions where official history claimed nobody lived. "These are the families," Maria said, "the ones with the signs." Maria spread medical records across the table, X-rays, DEXA scans, radiology reports. Every single family showed the same anomaly, bone density 2 to 4 times normal, but none of them had osteoporosis, none of them chronic pain, none of them mobility issues. In fact, many had never broken a bone. One man survived a car accident that should have shattered his femur. He walked away. Doctors couldn't explain it. Physics didn't allow it. Osteosclerosis should be pathological, Maria said, but in these families it isn't. Their bones weren't brittle. They were engineered differently. In the early 2000s, a hematologist in Warsaw tested blood samples from 12 families Maria tracked. Different countries, different surnames, no known relation, but every sample contained the same protein variant inside the hemoglobin structure. Not a mutation, a stable variant. It enhanced oxygen transport, increased endurance, improved recovery. People from these families performed at altitude as if they were at sea level. No acclimatization, no sickness. The researcher prepared a paper. It was published, then quietly retracted. His funding disappeared the following year. He refused to talk, but he saved the data, and Maria had copies. This protein doesn't appear in any known human population, Maria said, unless they all descend from the same source. Doctors couldn't measure this one because it didn't show up on tests, but the reports were consistent. People who heard frequencies others couldn't, infrasound, ultrasound, electrical hums. One woman could feel electromagnetic fields as a pressure on her skin. Another heard radio carrier waves, not voices, just signals. An 81-year-old man described hearing buildings under stress, not predicting earthquakes, hearing the resonance before failure. Medical tests showed normal hearing, normal nerves, normal brains, but they all reported the same thing. We're tuned differently, their grandparents told them. Teachers noticed first, children who understood spatial geometry instinctively, who built complex structures from memory, who recognized architectural principles centuries old. One 7-year-old girl built a scale model of a structure she had never seen, only heard described by her grandmother. When archaeologists compared it to real ruins, it matched almost perfectly. Another child designed acoustic chambers identical to ancient amphitheaters. No training, no instruction, just recognition. It's not intelligence, Maria said, it's memory. After 1850, something happened. Imperial orders, entire villages relocated, tall families separated, moved repeatedly, Poland to Ukraine, Ukraine to Central Asia, then back again, never allowed to cluster, never allowed to intermarry, never allowed to remember collectively, because they didn't want the genetics concentrating, because when they do, the signs become impossible to hide. Grandparents passed down warnings, never research, never organize, never look back, because if you did, they would come. Stone foundations were found in sealed archaeological sites, structures with mathematics that didn't match known civilizations, excavations halted, sites closed, records erased, a population removed from history, but not from genetics. Now the descendants are finding each other again, gathering data, comparing results, becoming visible. Maria looked at Anna and the others sitting at her table. You have a choice, she said. Stay scattered or be counted, because once you connect the bloodlines, someone notices. The data still exists, the markers persist, the 5 signs continue appearing across continents. Height that doesn't regress, bones that don't break, blood tuned for a different atmosphere, senses beyond the normal range, children who remember what they were never taught. They told us to forget, they told us never to look back. But the past isn't gone, it's written in DNA. And some of us are finally listening. The first thing Maria noticed wasn't a threat. It was a pattern. People who contacted her archive started reporting the same thing, small, harmless details at first. Phone calls that went silent when answered, emails that bounced back without explanation, medical portals that suddenly locked them out. Nothing dramatic, nothing provable, but it was consistent. And consistency is never accidental. Anna was the first to notice something truly wrong. She logged into her hospital portal one morning to download her latest bone density scan. The file was gone, not missing, deleted. The appointment history was still there, but the scan itself completely removed. She called the hospital. The receptionist paused. That scan was flagged, she said. Flagged how? Another pause. I can't see the reason. Anna contacted her doctor directly. He didn't answer. 2 days later, she received an automated message saying he had transferred departments. No forwarding information, no explanation. Maria wasn't surprised. They always start with the data, she said. 3 weeks later, a man arrived at Maria's archive unannounced. He didn't give his last name, just said to call him Daniel. Former civil engineer, 6'8". Bone density scan flagged at 3.1 times normal. But that wasn't why he was there.
I worked on infrastructure projects in Central Asia, he said, official ones, dams, roads, survey work. He pulled out photographs, foundations buried deep underground, stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons, precision cuts, acoustic chambers hidden beneath later construction. These weren't ancient ruins, Daniel said. They were intentionally buried. The dates didn't match known civilizations, and whenever his team got close to fully exposing a structure, the project was shut down. Budget issues, safety concerns, reassigned teams, same explanation every time. They didn't want the structures studied, he said. They wanted them forgotten. Maria received an email with no sender, no subject line, just one sentence: "You are creating patterns." The next day, her electricity was cut. The following week, her archive was audited for zoning violations. Officials arrived who didn't know why they were there, only that they were told to come. "They've noticed us," Katerina said. Maria gathered everyone: Anna, Katerina, Daniel, others with the markers. "You need to decide now," Maria said. "If we stop, this disappears again. If we continue, it won't." Someone asked the question no one wanted to say out loud. What happens if we finish what our ancestors started? Maria didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "Then the world remembers something it was never supposed to." The blood, the bones, the senses, the knowing, they weren't random traits, they were components of a system built for a world that no longer exists, or maybe a world that was deliberately dismantled, and now scattered descendants are accidentally rebuilding the memory, one family at a time, one child at a time, one frequency at a time. The final discovery came from a place no one expected: satellite data, anomalous resonance patterns detected in regions where erased villages once stood, structures responding to something or someone. And Maria realized something terrifying. They weren't being watched anymore. They were being waited for.